When it comes to fitness training for tennis, we have to be very precise. There are 5 areas we need to master. The first one is mobility. Mobility is extremely important and is overlooked by a lot of players. We will dive into it to understand exactly what we need to do.
We're going to start with hip mobility, which is one of the keys to becoming faster and more agile. The hip joint allows for internal, external rotation, flexion, and extension. In internal rotation, the adductors and the piriformis are activated. In external rotation, the gluteus is engaged. In flexion, the psoas and the lower abs are involved, and in extension, the gluteus and lower back is activated. If any of the muscles mentioned is contracted or shortened, it will limit the free mobility of the hip. We have internal rotation of the hip. Here, where we're working on strengthening this internal rotation. We can use an elastic band to achieve more resistance. And in this type of exercise, we need to do higher reps, between 12, 14 reps. For the flexion of the hip, to strengthen this flexion, we can come here also with the band. We will lift with the leg extended. Here it's important to not curve the back, to relax and achieve an upright position. Also doing higher reps. And then we have external rotation, sorry. We can come here, ankle above the knee. We force this position, this knee, we force it down as close as possible to the ground, and then we come back here. Also, when doing all this type of exercise, we are looking for higher reps. This one I love it because it's not only a hip extension and flexion exercise, but also a hip stability exercise. We'll come here, this leg will go as far as possible backwards. We stretch it as far as we can, and then we will come back and keep it in there. Always looking for balance, stability. We're gonna go for 10 reps. Then we have a combined exercise, internal rotation with external rotation. We are looking always to keep the torso as straight as possible and to control throughout all the motion. Then we go to a flexion exercise. Also, here it's important to keep the back straight, the back flat. And we will go from here with the legs straightened to here, stepping as close as possible to the body without rounding the back. This is important, keeping the back as flat as possible. Next, we have shoulder mobility, which is essential not only for the forehand and the backhand, but especially for the serve. Good shoulder mobility will allow us to generate more power on the serve, and it will help us prevent injuries in the joints. We're gonna put the thumbs facing upwards, and we're gonna try to go with the chest as close as possible to the ground, feeling the stretch behind the shoulder. We're gonna stretch all the anterior chain here, looking to get a 90-degree angle on both arms. We're gonna go to the sky and come back. To the sky and come back. You just feel a nice stretch on the pectoral and all the anterior chain. Then we have mobility on the wrist, the knees, and the ankle. Although this is work on a lesser extent, it's extremely important to achieve good footing, to prevent injuries, and to be extremely agile on court. Then for the ankle, we will go here kind of like a lunge with the knee on the ground here, all the foot on the ground. The heel is not lifting, so the heel needs to be all the time touching the ground, and with the knee we'll go as far forward as possible, feeling a nice stretch behind on the calf and the soleus, and then coming back, going forward, feeling the stretch, the heel is not lifting, and coming back. Then we have mobility of the lower, middle and upper back. This is important to achieve good positions, to prevent injuries, and to be able to move freely and have good rotations on the forehand, backhand, serve, and pretty much every ground stroke and every hit, every stroke on the court.
Then we get into the second area, core training. Yes, core training is extremely important, and for us tennis players, even more. We need to train the flexion motion, front flexion, side flexion, and then the obliques, the rotations. Every strength and power movement originates from our core. To generate power effectively, a strong core is essential. Core flexion is necessary for linear movement. Core rotation, driven by the obliques, is necessary for rotational movements, and it plays a crucial role in tennis-specific movements such as the forehand, backhand, and the serve. Nearly every swing and stroke relies heavily on rotational force. We have exercises that focus on flexion, and we have others that emphasize rotation. It's essential to incorporate both into our training, as developing strength in these movements is key to achieving optimal performance and overall core stability. Then we get to the third area, strength training. This can be tricky because in tennis we need to gain strength, gain power, but without losing mobility. Improving strength and not losing mobility is one key factor in tennis. In a good strength program, we will come across three types of exercises. First, we have eccentric exercises. We'll work on the lengthening portion of the exercise. Eccentric exercises will help to prevent tendon injuries, it will improve our force absorption, and it will help us in the deceleration that we need to get into the stances. Then we have isometric exercises. We are working without the muscle shortening nor lengthening. The muscle is maintaining the same length throughout the exercise. This type will improve our neuromuscular connections, so our muscles will be able to recruit more fibers. On court, it will help us with the strength, stability and balance. And then we have concentric exercises. We are working on the shortening portion of the exercise. This type will improve our power and force production, so we will be able to put more power and to hit faster balls. Then the fourth area is prevention. Tennis injuries are very specific and very unique to the sport. To be able to keep playing without pain and without injuries is key. One of my mentors used to say, in the morning we hurt the shoulder, in the afternoon we heal it. He was referring to the internal and external rotation. When playing tennis, our shoulder requires a significant amount of internal rotation. Each training we hit hundreds of forehands and a lot of serves. In these fast and explosive movements, the shoulder rotates internally. If we don't balance this internal rotation with external rotation and scapula stability training, it can lead to a rotational imbalance. This imbalance may result in problems such as shoulder impingement syndrome, rotator cuff injuries, shoulder instability, postural issues, and restricted range of motion.
When playing tennis, our wrist is one of the heavily loaded joints, constantly engaging in every swing and stroke. Our wrist may become rigid and lose mobility, which can lead to a series of problems that we need to prevent. First, overcompensation by other joints. If our wrist lacks mobility, other joints may compensate to complete movements. This can lead to problems such as tennis elbow or shoulder impingement. Second, strain on wrist, tendon, and ligaments. A rigid wrist can result in improper force distribution during strokes. This could increase the risk of wrist tendinitis, carpal tunnel syndrome, or even TFCC injuries.
Third,
the wrist plays a key role in absorbing impact forces. Lack of mobility may decrease this function, leading to inflammation in the joint and in the surrounding areas. Fourth, poor stroke mechanics. Limited wrist mobility can result in improper shot biomechanics, resulting in bad technique and performance. To prevent all these problems, we need to work both on wrist mobility and strength. For the ankle, it's important to work on proprioception. Proprioception is the body's ability to sense its position, movement, and balance without visual input. It helps coordinate movement, maintain stability, and react to changes in the environment. Crucial for athletic performance and injury prevention.
Then we get to the fifth area. This is the most important. Stances. You can be strong, you can be fast, you can be powerful, but if you don't have good stances, you will miss more balls than you have to. I mean, if you have correct stances, you will be able to play from all over the court comfortably, and your game will improve enormously. Stances are a game changer. Once you get this, you get the game. Let's go on court and take a closer look into the stances.
We have open stance, line stance, and closed stance. Open stance, we have right, and left transfer. This kind of stance, we use it a lot when we get a defensive ball, maybe a little bit to the back, and we have that time to load and deload. Load and deload. Then we have the open stance on the run. This stance, we use it in a defensive position, but more laterally. When we don't have much time and we're going laterally and we need to hit a fastball. And then we have open, advance. This is mainly a serve return stance, and we use it also when we have the time to get an attacking ball, when the ball is coming slow and we have the time to load and deload forward. Then we have the line stances. We have line fix, boom, 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 boom. This stance, we use it when the ball is coming fast. For example, when the other player is on the net and he plays a fast ball, we go here, fix, boom. We don't have much time, we use this stance. And then we have line, pivot, line, pivot. This kind of stance, we use it when we are playing in the middle and we have the time to transfer the weight, to the ball. But it's mainly a middle stance. And then we have the closed stances. This stance, for example, this is a closed stance. The leg is closed in relation to the court. Closed. This stance is not advisable by a lot of coaches, and it's not an effective stance. Why? Because we are close to the court from a rotational standpoint. We don't have the ability to play with a lot of direction. We are a little bit blocked here. It's a last resort stance. It's a very defensive stance, extremely defensive stance. It's when we don't have any other option.
I'm Marco Luparo. I'm a tennis conditioning specialist. I've been playing, training, and studying the game since I was very young. For the past 6 years, I've been working in the pro circuit and I help more than 50 both professional and amateur players. This is my passion, this is what I love, and this is what I do very good. So I hope to see you around.